Chichen Itza, Mexico. Located on the Yucatan Peninsula are the ruins of an ancient Mayan city that thrived from 750 to 1200 AD. It was here in 1969 that Erich von Daniken had an amazing realization involving the city's central pyramid of El Castillo.
I was standing before this great pyramid. I understood nothing. I took every possible literature from Central American archaeologists to learn what's this all about. And then I learned again, they are talking of visitors from outside. Of course, they call them gods.
According to the ancient Maya myths, their main deity was Quetzalcoatl or Kukulkan, Cucumatz, all those different names for the exact same deity, which was described to be a winged or a flying serpent or a flying snake. Whatever it was that they saw up in the sky could best be described as a flying snake.
When we're looking across the world, Chichen Itza is a very important location. It is one of those places where it is said that the gods descended to and decreed a fate of mankind. And there is one specific pyramid, El Castillo, the castle, where you see an intricate light show happening on specifically the equinoxes, March 21st and September 21st.
In the early morning, you see the sun rising up, and while the sun goes up, you see on the stairway light and shadow, triangles of light and shadow. They are produced because of the 9 platforms. The light and shadow triangles slowly go down the step to the pyramid until the sun is up there. The message is absolutely clear. God Kukulkan visited the earth and disappeared again with the promise to return in a faraway future. So they have given this whole information of the return of the gods into their temple.
And I think this is one of the great things which Erich has done, not just in the story of Chichen Itza, but of so many other aspects on other places in this world as well, whereby he focuses on certain details and says, look, this is important. This is a detail which is extremely difficult to create. This is something which traditional archaeology tends to overlook.
By making a connection between the ancient Maya's knowledge of astronomy and their precise architecture, Erich von Daniken was convinced that there was much more to his ancient alien hypothesis than he had imagined. For further proof, he looked to another Mayan temple, one that housed what some say was the first ancient astronaut, Lord Pakal.
At the ancient Mayan city of Palenque was a tomb that was discovered in the 1950s. And inside this tomb was a lid on this sarcophagus for Lord Pakal. And that lid is very highly decorated with a picture of Lord Pakal. And in that picture, he's doing some really unusual things.
You see a man bending forward, almost like a racing motorcyclist. He has his nose on some kind of oxygen mask. He uses his upper hand to manipulate the knot. You see his lower hand, he manipulates some controls. He's sitting on a kind of chair in a sort of capsule.
When Erich looked at that lid, he saw a Mayan king in a rocket ship. And that guy was returning to the stars, going back into space. It was an exciting interpretation, and it was one of the main things in Chariots of the Gods. And when other people looked at that lid and saw his explanation, they had to agree with him.
Could Erich von Daniken be correct? Was Lord Pakal really an extraterrestrial who visited Earth in the distant past? One who perhaps shared highly advanced knowledge with mankind. Central America. In western Honduras, lie the impressive ruins of the ancient Maya city of Copan. And though Copan's temples, pyramids, and monuments rank among the most important of any Mayan sites, researchers looking to explain the incredible achievements of the Maya have been drawn to a 72-step structure known as the Hieroglyphic Stairway.
The hieroglyphic stairway at Copan was constructed in the early 700s AD with the intent of writing out the history of Copan at that time. And so it was designed as a public monument to the glory and success of all the kings from Yash Kukmo all the way to the 13th one who commissioned it to be built.
Carved into 1,200 stones in the massive monument, the ancient Maya symbols, known as glyphs, make up what historians believe is one of the oldest and most sophisticated systems of writing. But for centuries, the glyphs found throughout Mesoamerica were undecipherable. Then, in 1880, German librarian and anthropologist Ernst Forstmann cracked the code.
Ernst Forstmann was a librarian at Dresden, and in his desk he kept one of the 4 Maya books, the Dresden Codex. He was a brilliant mathematician and extremely logical and had enormous insights, and at a time when we couldn't read a single Maya hieroglyph, he was able to figure out the Maya calligraphy.
Maya hieroglyphic writing is very robust, and that's because it uses really 2 components. There are logographs. Logographs are really pictures that represent entire words. So Balam, for example, which is jaguar, could be written with just the head of a jaguar. On the other, we have these things that we call phonetic complements. And these are glyphs, they're images that represent sounds.
According to interpretations of the hieroglyphic stairway, the glyphs chronicle not only the history, but also the origin of the ancient Maya rulers.
The hieroglyphs are really attached to what was important to royalty at the time, and that was lineage, and the genealogies of the kings. They went out of their way to demonstrate how they were connected to their ancestors and the gods of their ancestors to establish their right to rule.
This is a picture I took of a close-up of a sculpture of Washak Lajun Uba Ka'wil, the 13th ruler of Copan, and he's depicted here on the front in all of his finery, and then the sculptor put a hieroglyphic passage on the side. We don't think commoners could read, but all the elites could, and the king could. So he or another elite individual could come here and impress people by saying this demonstrates the semi-divinity of our king and his power to intercede between us and the heavens.
But just what was the real source of power and authority behind the Maya priests and kings? Do the hieroglyphs reveal an otherworldly truth to their origin, as the Maya themselves maintain? Ancient astronaut theorists believe the answer is yes.
What we have to think about today is, where did the origin of the priesthood come from? And the origin is nothing else but that they, the initial cabal of priests, they were all in contact with extraterrestrials, and that's why they were revered. Our ancestors thought they were gods because they didn't understand the nuts and bolts aspects behind those visits. But when it all comes down to it, it was all a huge misunderstanding and a way to keep the common people in place.
Mexico, the Yucatan Peninsula. For over 2,000 years, rain-drenched jungles and fertile plains served as the home of one of the ancient world's greatest civilizations, the Maya. Scholars estimate that between 250 and 900 AD, the Mayan population consisted of between 15 to 20 million people and extended as far south as Costa Rica and Guatemala. Archaeological evidence suggests the Maya were one of the first ancient people to develop a written language, use modern mathematical methods, and build massive, multi-story celestial observatories, all at a time when Europeans were struggling through the so-called Dark Ages.
The Maya are considered one of the great advanced civilizations with hyper-advanced astronomy, astrology, trigonometry, architecture, all of these things while the Europeans were, at the time, rolling around in the mud.
But perhaps the most amazing Mayan achievement was their system of charting the stars and planets in the form of a calendar.
The Mayas were timekeepers above and beyond all other things. Keeping up with time was magic, it was power to the Mayans.
They were tracking in particular Venus, phases of the moon, eclipses, but they also tracked precession, which is an extraordinarily long cycle. What it means is that every year on, say, March 15th, the Pleiades rise for the first time in the sky. If you wait 72 years, the day of the rising of the Pleiades will be one day earlier. And if you wait another 72 years, it'll be a day earlier still. And if you wait 26,000 years, the Pleiades will move back to that same day.
According to scholars, the Maya believed that time, like the stars, moved in repeating patterns, called calendar cycles, and that these cycles could be used to predict future events. One of these calendar cycles, the Mayan long count, lasts for 5,125 years and will end on December 21st, 2012. But why? Why did the Maya choose this date? And what did they believe would happen to our world? Perhaps a clue can be found in an astronomical phenomenon located at the center of the Milky Way galaxy, an area where there are no stars.
The Mayans knew, not only did they know where the center of the galaxy was, but they understood that it was a light-year across black hole that they called the Great Rift.
The Maya believed this was the birth canal of the universe, and that all things came from the birth canal of the universe. And on December 21st, 2012, the Earth, the Sun, and this birth canal, the Dark Rift, are all in perfect alignment. And this only happens every 26,000 years.
Could the fact that the Maya long count calendar ends on the same day as this rare alignment in the Milky Way galaxy be a mere coincidence? And did this advanced understanding of celestial cycles really come from ancient Mayan astronomers observing the stars with only their naked eyes?
The Mayans believed that this knowledge came to them from their gods, and their gods then existed in the stars. So is it possible that these gods could have been extraterrestrials? The answer to that question is yes, it's possible.
According to the Maya themselves, this knowledge was not something that they came up with, but it was given to them as a gift from the gods. The gift back then was not material stuff, it was knowledge. Knowledge is the currency of the universe.
Planet Earth, 65 million years ago. An 8-mile wide asteroid hurtles towards the planet at approximately 12 miles per second and strikes the region now known as the Yucatan Peninsula with a force of 100 million megatons of TNT. According to mainstream science, this catastrophic event forever changed the climate and the topography of Earth and ended the reign of the dinosaurs.
The object that came in was 8 or 10 miles in diameter. That impact dug a deep hole, lofted material into the atmosphere, black dust, which shrouded the planet in darkness for months, maybe for a couple of years.
So there would have been a time in which the sunlight was simply shut out from the Earth's surface. And photosynthetic organisms like plants would begin to die.
The plant-eating dinosaurs would have nothing to eat and would have died off. The meat-eating dinosaurs would then have nothing to eat either. And this might have lasted anywhere from 5 to 10 years. How quickly the extinction took place is a matter of debate.
But is it possible that some species of dinosaur actually survived this cataclysmic event? And not only survived, but thrived for several thousands or even millions of years? Perhaps clues can be recovered near a crater where scientists believe the giant asteroid struck the Earth, right in the heart of what is now the Yucatan Peninsula. Today, less than 90 miles from the epicenter of the asteroid impact, lies one of the largest and best preserved cities of the ancient Maya, Chichen Itza.
You have to wonder if it's not some strange coincidence that the same spot, the Yucatan, which experienced this devastating asteroid strike, which caused extinction of the dinosaurs, is also the main habitation area of the ancient Maya.
Chichen Itza is said to have been the place where the Mayans made contact with the gods. And I find it an extraordinary coincidence. Of all the potential places around the Gulf of Mexico which they could have chosen, they took a place where literally something fell from the sky 65 million years ago. And the Mayans believed that this contact with the gods, this contact with the sky, happened there up until the most recent of times. And so what we have here is either a coincidence or something else going on. And really this something else is only something which hardly anybody has touched upon. But I think it is something which really needs to be explored in far more detail.
In the Mayan area and other areas of Mexico, there are curious depictions of dinosaurs. There's pterosaurs, there's a famous dinosaur that appears on one of the paintings at Bonampak. So you have to wonder just how the Mayans knew about dinosaurs. Supposedly dinosaurs have been extinct for millions of years.
But if, as mainstream scientists believe, the dinosaurs had been extinct for millions of years before the evolution of mankind on this planet, then what would explain the wealth of Mayan art depicting interactions between humans and what appear to be dinosaurs, found in the very area where they supposedly died off?